Hi there, this is Jamie Smith with Coldwell Banker, the Smith Son & C Group. We are out of St. Pete Beach, Pinellas County, Palm Harbor, Clearwater, Tampa Bay. We are here for you. We also service Bradenton and Sarasota. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing and chatting with Alex Steiger from Coleman Insurance, get represented by the CIA. Before we get started there, please follow us, like, and subscribe. We'd love to keep you more informed and make sure that we make your day every day of the year. Alex, how are you doing?
I am well, Jamie. How are you guys?
We are absolutely awesome.
Doing great?
Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me here, guys. This is really going to be an exciting podcast.
Yes.
You know, it's really probably one of my first few to actually be invited to, so very much looking forward to having the experience. So, very excited.
Wonderful, Alex. Give me a little bit of information on how long you've been in the business.
Sure.
I think, well, let me add this. You and I have worked together for a little over 2 years now.
We have.
And I have found you amazing. Your communication level, your quality of service, your rates far surpass anybody else that I've ever worked with.
Well, I appreciate that. The low rates are not all me, but I will tell you a lot of work goes into it to make sure I can find the very best solutions for my clients. Again, I've been in insurance here in Florida for a little over 2 years, and it is a pretty challenging industry here in Florida because there's a lot of specific challenges. Obviously, of course, hurricane exposure, different components of flood insurance, where the property is located. Those are all important things that an insurance agent is really going to be beneficial to you if you're either selling or buying a new home or condo or property here in the area in Florida. So, no, I am recently moved here from the Midwest. My wife, daughter, and I, we moved to Palm Harbor about 2 years ago, and I've just really loved Florida life so far. The weather is pretty fantastic. We're definitely not complaining. So,
that's great. That's great. So let's dive right into this.
Sure.
Let's talk first about 4-point inspections.
Yeah, absolutely. So 4-point inspections, that question is going to come up a lot. If you're new to Florida, if you're buying or selling a home, it is definitely an important and integral part of that purchase and or sale. It is basically 4 points. It looks at 4 important components of the home: roof, air conditioning, heating system, electrical system, and plumbing system. And really the 4-point is going to give you the report necessary to obtain that also important insurance policy for that home or condo that you're either buying and or, like I stated, selling as well. Now, 4 points for a seller are going to help for that future buyer, and every once in a while you will see an inspection report completed pre-sale of a home. And again, it's just for information purposes and can help that buyer just have a little bit more trust and understanding in what they're potentially buying. So important, definitely, and we've got a great inspection company that can help provide one if need be.
Absolutely, we do, yeah. So let's talk about the roof for a second. How old is the roof, or does the roof have to be in order to not get insurance?
Understood. That is an excellent question. It has really come up very recently in our insurance discussions on a daily basis because there have been a lot of different eligibility changes as of late. A lot of different homeowners rate increases over the last year due to that hurricane exposure that we are so commonly kind of prone to here in Florida. A roof, if it's 10 years old, you're going to have plenty of options as far as different carriers that are going to offer coverage. If you are between 10 and 15 years of age, that option list of carriers that are going to offer coverage dramatically decreases. We're talking probably 50% in that 10 to 15 year age. And again, we're talking shingle roofs. Metal roofs, tile roofs, those offer slightly longer lifespan for, and again, insurance eligibility. It's not necessarily the roof has to be replaced for the fact that it's leaking or there's a problem with it, but with insurance, they're very specific. When you get over 15 years of age, things get a lot more challenging. So again, it's going to be integral to contact me or contact your agent, obviously, to discuss those questions that you have about the roof and when you may need to replace that roof.
Yeah, and an inspector, like the inspector we were talking about, would be the one that could tell you how much life you have on your roof and if you would be able to qualify to get that home insurance.
That is exactly right.
The roof, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the inspector, again, an integral part along with obviously Jamie, her team, and a trustworthy insurance agent. Very important parts of the puzzle here in Florida, that's for sure.
So let's talk about flood insurance a little bit.
Sure.
We get a lot of questions. We're constantly getting people saying, I don't want to be in a flood area because I don't want to have to pay for the flood insurance. Now, flood insurance doesn't necessarily have to be expensive.
That's exactly right.
Right?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So give us an idea on say a 16 or maybe a 2,000 square foot home.
Sure. So again, it's not necessarily how big or small the home is. Obviously, that's going to be a part of the policy and that how much you have for coverage. Now, FEMA has been remapping a lot of the area here in Florida. And again, each home's going to be in their own specific flood hazard zone. And you've got levels of hazard level. And of course, each level as you get closer and closer to the water in some situations, or if you are in an area that's certainly a little lower maybe than, the standard base flood elevation in the area, you're going to have potentially more costs. So like Jamie asked, a 2,000 square foot house in an X flood zone, you don't really even have to have the flood insurance. I could put together a $250,000 policy for like $500 or $600 for a home that's in an X flood zone. If you are in an AE or a VE flood zone, again, it depends on the construction of the home. A lot of the VE flood zone, VE being closest to the water or right on the water, you're most likely going to be in a home that is elevated up above the actual ground level. And so in those situations, again, you're going to have a much lower insurance cost because you've got a lot of house there that's not really going to be living space. So it's very much kind of case by case basis. But if you're in a flood zone, we've got 12 different carriers and we have lots of different options. So just reach out and I can go over each one specifically.
So let's take an example.
Sure.
So we've got a home on the Intercoastal.
Okay.
It's 2,300 square feet.
Okay.
It's on the Intercoastal.
Sure.
What are we looking for flood insurance? A block home?
Elevated or sitting on the ground?
Let's start with sitting on the ground.
Sure. So actually, I just recently quoted a home in St. Pete, actually not too far from where the Smith Group's headquarters is here. Quoted it actually just a couple of days ago. It was a 2,500 square foot house built in the early 50s, which is common for around the area. And the flood insurance quote came out to like $2,500 a year. And it was actually for $250,000 in coverage. And it is, again, a very nice, very, fancy house in St. Pete, as most are. So
okay,
not real expensive. If it were in an X flood zone, it would be $600. If it were in a VE flood zone on the water, it could be $4,000, $5,000, $6,000. It just depends. So again, it's definitely important to ask me, to kind of look into it for you, see what options you have.
So that was one that was on the ground, not elevated.
Correct.
So what would be the difference in the price with one being elevated?
Sure. So an elevated home, that's going to be a completely different rating factor, and rating factor meaning how expensive it's going to be to insure the property. So if it's an elevated home, you could cut that cost literally in half or maybe even sometimes 3/4. Another home I actually just put together a flood policy for, not here in St. Pete, but in Palm Harbor area. And this is a $2 million property. They're only paying like $800 a year for flood insurance and they're on the water. So again, it is completely case by case basis. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
It's
all over. It can be all over the place.
Literally all over the place. I have flood insurance that's $500. I have flood policies that are, sometimes $8,000 or $9,000 or $10,000. So it really pays to have an insurance agent and a real estate team to kind of look out for your best interest when you're purchasing a property.
So when we're talking about flood insurance, what does that actually cover?
Sure. So it's often asked of me, of course, if you have a homeowner's insurance policy, does that include flood? It does not. Flood and homeowners or condo insurance are separate policies. If your home is in an X flood zone, you do have the ability in some situations to add flood coverage to that homeowner's policy, but it's not very common if you're in a hazard flood zone such as an AE or VE flood zone. So, it's kind of tough to say, really.
Is it rising water? Is it water that comes in through the windows?
It is. It's basically any rising water, anything that comes in from the outside of the home. And again, coverage can go from $50,000 up to $250,000 or more. But anything considered water coming into the residence or into the property from outside, that's flood insurance. That's what the coverage is going to be covering for you. And it can cover, all of your contents, obviously the rebuild cost of the home and anything else that's damaged in that potential flood. So,
would it cover you? Does flood insurance cover you? Let's say you have a plumbing leak would that be flood insurance or would that be under homeowners insurance?
That's a really good question. That is going to be homeowners insurance. So if, again, the water is rapidly rising and enters the structure of the dwelling from outside and causes flooding or water damage inside, that's flood. Where if you have a pipe burst or you have potentially, a plumbing issue that, you have a water leak that starts inside the home and causes water damage on the inside, that's going to be homeowners or condo insurance. And that is something that, again, is very common in Florida. So make sure to ask your agent about water damage coverage, both flood and that would be included with your homeowners or condo policy.
Great.
Yeah.
Good information. Thank
Awesome.
you, Alex.
Yeah, you're welcome.
One more thing that I want to ask you about
Sure.
is what about auto insurance?
Boy,
'Cause I know
auto
you do
insurance.
that too.
Yeah, that is, again, a question that happens a lot. So Jamie and her team work with, obviously, people who live here in Florida already, but are also moving here from out of state. And when I help a client put together that home or condo insurance, I can also help with your auto insurance. We have 9 different companies that we can actually place auto insurance with. And a good question that you brought up is auto insurance recently has been getting less expensive because we're not driving as much. Everybody's kind of staying more home recently with COVID and obviously our pandemic we're all living through, hopefully very smoothly. It's actually a situation where you can save some money on auto insurance. There are also a lot of new tricks that you can actually utilize. The monitoring devices, again, as we're not doing a lot of driving, I know there's been lots of marketing about that, but monitoring devices, basically watching how you drive, how frequently you drive, what times of the day you drive, those can save you 10, 15%, sometimes even more on your auto insurance. That can be a big chunk of change here in Florida. So definitely, get some auto quotes done. Make sure you also ask your agent about getting the revisions and obviously just kind of the overall review of everything you have, because you want to make sure you're adequately covered. And of course, in case something happens, you don't want to have not enough insurance. You want to potentially have enough or too much. So.
That sounds great, Alex.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
So what we do here at Coldwell Banker Smith Son & C Group is we offer real estate reviews. And what a real estate review is, it actually helps you per year look at what your insurance needs are. Do you need extra insurance? Do you have too much insurance? We're willing to help you with that. Give us a call. We'll analyze and give you a total review of your property and the breakdown. And we will also connect you with Alex from Coleman Insurance Agency, helping you get the best deal you can in today's time. So thank you for joining us. My name is Jamie Smith, Coldwell Banker Smith Son & C Group. Remember to follow, like, and share us.
Thanks, everybody.